All right. Yeah. So we got some real bangers here to start. So Sarah the Benevolent. I don't remember if she made. I think she just barely didn't make the cut of my top five planeswalkers I wanted to see in historic. But I'm really glad we're getting her. She's a really sweet design. So creatures you control flying get 1/1 till end of turn. She comes into play to make an angel, and she gets an emblem that says if you control a creature, damage it or reduce your life totals to less than one, reduces it to one instead. And she hits that emblem really quickly, right? Like you play her, you plus her to 6, and then you down tick her, and you have this worship emblem for the rest of the game that's really good in creature mirrors. And she gives you board presence against control decks, and she can give you an extra push in terms of damage. The big one here, though, man, Sarah's Emissary is huge. Enters the battlefield, choose a card type. You and creatures you control have protection from the chosen card type. Unburial Rights is back on the menu, chat. We've really lacked a bomb diggity to put into play with Unburial Rights that was really good, and like Sarah's Emissary is so good. So for reference, you can name creatures with Sarah's Emissary. And if you have protection from creatures, you don't take damage from creatures, and your creatures are unblockable. So against creature decks that can't deal with a 7/7, they're going to have a really bad time. Now, there is some counterplay to this out of like Groll, for example. So Questing Beast as well as Stomp's flavor text beats protection. Sarah's Emissary is not very good against control. So it depends on what type of control. So obviously not amazing against sweepers, but you can name instance, for example, to prevent instant speed removal spells from happening. So is lackluster against control decks, but is very strong against creatures that play to the decks that play to the board in terms of creatures. New planeswalkers. Up to one target creature's base power perpetually becomes equal to its toughness. It gains as creature may attack as though it doesn't have defender. Ha! Conjure a lumbering light shield onto the battlefield. What does that do? Huh. Neat. Okay. So this is a card I had mentioned as perhaps being close to playable. So over the course of a couple turns, it enables and then also makes that a 4/4, right? Yeah. So maybe we'll have to screw around with the defense decks. Walls decks. At the beginning of your end step, return target white creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You get life equal to its toughness. Sure. 3-mana planeswalker. Choose up to one target elf, untap it, and a random elf creature card in your hand perpetually gets 1/1. Seek an elf. Okay, Seek, for those not familiar, means it just draws you an elf out of your deck. Conjure a Regal Force card onto the battlefield. Sure. Yeah. Neat. That's sweet. Okay, we're definitely gonna have to try some elves in historic. So one of the things we often say when deck building is when you're building a deck and making changes to it, you want to ask yourself what problems you have and how you can solve them. And this card actually works to solve some of the problems elves have in historic. Elves is a very good linear aggressive deck that gets reeled by heavy interaction and sweepers especially. And the fact that this comes into play at 4 loyalty and can draw 3 elves if left uninteracted with every single turn for 3 turns and not die is huge. So this allowing you to recover from heavy interaction or sweepers could be the push that Elves needs in Historic, I think. Excited to try this one. Blade Splicer. Sweet. So we're getting this one along with Restoration Angel. Ephemerate's already legal. This sounds super, super sweet. So you get 4 power across 2 bodies. You get value with other things. Ninja. Oh, we looked at this one earlier. Asylum Visitor. This is another Madness card. We could have a real Madness archetype in the format. When Pashiki Mons, one of their goblins you control, dies, deals 1 damage to any target. Oh gosh, we're getting more goblins tools. Okay. Sheener Nightmare Adept. Oh, we're getting a bunch of goblins tools. Discard a card. You may cast a creature from your graveyard. Activate this one each turn. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it from hand, it gains haste until end of turn. I am super looking forward to building a Brawl deck with this. We are definitely going to play some Sheener Nightmare Adept Brawl on this channel, chat. You were under the impression that Seek would put the first one in your deck into your hand. Sure, that's effectively like drawing a random one, Magnus. It's a very actually comment on your part. Ooh, it does give Crocs a haste, doesn't it? Sling Gang Lieutenant. You get 2 extra ones, and you sack a goblin to make people lose. This is Goblin Lightning Helix in a pinch. It also pairs very well with Pashalik Mons here to let your goblins deal 2 per sack. That might be okay. This is also just another decent thing to fetch up with Muxus. Enters the battlefield, seek an elf card. Ooh. It's an elfish visionary that guaranteed draws a spell. That's kind of gas. Haste, Echo, discard a card. So this card looks kind of mediocre at a glance because you have to discard a card, but this is an enabler for the Madness archetype, right? Like we've seen Asylum Visitor, we're getting the 0 mana Red Root Walla, we're getting Fiery Temper. So this making you discard a card could be upside in the right situation, and it's pretty aggressively slanted, right? We get to attack for 3 right away. Bone Shards. This is technically another way to enable Madness as well. Yes, that's a good way to put it. You don't have to discard a card. The decks that want to play this get to discard a card. Yeah, this could be, we talked about, Unburial Rites coming back with Sarah's Emissary. Maybe you build an aggressively slanted Reanimator deck with something like Headliner. When Reckless Ringleader enters the battlefield, choose a creature in your hand. It perpetually gains haste. Neat. Huh. Could be okay with Muxus. Yep. Ooh, it's good with Krenko too. It's probably better with Krenko, honestly. All right, were there any spoilers other than a Goldfish doesn't always have everything? Were there others that came up? Let's check here real quick. Return Stitchwing Scab from your graveyard to the battlefield. Discard 2 cards. Choose a creature in your hand. We got a bear pack. Anybody have a link to the bear pack? Well, I guess there are maybe some over the weekend. Check out mtgpreviews.com. Was all of them? Oh, look, there are more here. We're getting the Queen of the Bears. If another bear enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Put 2/1 counters on target bear fights. The bear pack is full of 2/2s. Accurate. Oh, there were some good ones over the weekend too. I saw Bizarre Trade Mage come up. This one looks sweet. When it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, then discard 3 cards. This notably enables Hollowed One entirely on its own, and it's a 3/4 flyer. Yeah, there's a ton of slivers in here we've talked about. I'm skipping over ones I know we've talked about already in past videos. If you're watching this and saying, Jeff, why aren't you stopping to look at card X? Ooh, Priest of the Fell Rites. I missed that one. Whenever that one came up. That's another sweet one. This is a card that was on my top 5 cards I wanted from historic or modern Horizons 2, because this is another card that is like Unburial Rites. Yeah, this is because it has Unearth, you can Grizzly Salvage over this. So we'll get to play 8 Unburial Rites in our Reanimator deck. So this set is looking like it's really going to solve the problems that the Unburial Rites deck has, which was 1, you only had 4 Unburial Rites, and 2, you didn't always have ideal things to reanimate. We're getting more Unburial Rites effectively with this. This also sets you up for turn 3 reanimations when you play it as a 2-drop, which is sweet. Man, this set's gonna be gas. It's not gonna be gas for my wallet, but it's gonna set a sweet fire ablaze. Parallel lives. Yeah, EDH is a hell of a drug. Oh yeah, these are yeah, this is where I saw the Bizarre Trade Mage, Champion of Wits, and Necroglaive. Another madness card that might be okay. Then broaden the playable decks to historic for sure. Maybe it's going at a minimum. We talked a little bit at the start about everybody has their B list deck that they want to play. At a minimum, this set's going to create a bunch of new tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 decks where people will have a deck that they like playing, even if it's not particularly good. And as long as they're having fun with it, that's the thing that matters. I mean, my only comment on digital only cards is great. Welcome to the future. I'm glad they finally did it. We talked about those at different points over the course of different things. All right. I think that's going to wrap on magical stuff for the day. You're going to be continuing our